All right, so I made a new acquisition here. I got a good deal on this one. It's my dad's car, but recently he had an issue where he backed up in the garage and hit something and broke this piece. Now I've looked, and apparently you can get this piece if you can find it for $100, and I'm considering that, but I'm looking at it and basically it just broke all these plastic bits, and so I can epoxy those and get them back on. The problem is, how do you get this piece off? You see you got a wire here that goes inside the car, and you can take the brake light out, but this piece will not come out of here. So I started pulling the interior panels off, and I figured I'd show this. So this piece here covers the corners of this piece here. And this is the piece you have to take off to get to that little pigtail. So this big piece, what I did was I came in from the side with my tool. If you've got one of these are handy as can be. If you don't have one, go out and buy one. I don't just use it for door panel clips, but that's what it's made for. I popped these two panel clips, came over to the other side, popped these two panel clips, and then just started working my way inward, and then finally got the back ones to pop down from the back side. And once I did that, this piece here was, it goes in this way, clipped in place, and you can see these arms here cover it. But as I pried it down, everything came out, and then you just have to unhook these. They kind of hook in here, and they're kind of a pain in the butt. You just got to pop them loose, and once you get each side done, it all comes off. So that's all it takes to get to this, and here's the nuts on the bottom side of those. I've just got to zip these nuts off, and I can take those little studs out, take the whole back panel off, and then work on repairing it with some epoxy. So I've kind of chosen this particular spot to sit in to raise an interesting question. Would you turn your nose up at a Prius? What if it was a really good deal? When I got the Mustang years and years ago, I was not interested in buying a V8 Mustang. Gas was, too expensive, this and that and the other. It was a sweet, sweet car, but I couldn't see it in my life. But I got a deal on it, and so I ended up buying the Mustang. This turned up, this is my dad's old car. He decided he wanted something new, and he had the Prius, and he said, "Are you interested in the Prius?" "Well, I'm interested." He said, "Well, take it." "Okay, I'm in." But it brings to mind a lot of things I've heard. And over the years, I have heard hundreds of people complain about the Prius and whine about how Prius owners are so smug. I'm going to roll coal on those Prius owners. I think once I've heard a Prius owner make a smug statement. I've seen one with some environmental stickers on the back, and I'm all for protecting the environment. I love hot rodding too, but I think we ought to be responsible about it. And it kind of makes me wonder, when people are that bent out of shape over the Prius, what's the story? And the thing is, the Prius is not an electric car. It's a hybrid. It was one of the first hybrids. And now you go looking, and half the cars on the road are hybrid. Why are people still hating on the Prius? They're good running cars. I mean, this one's nearly flawless. It doesn't have a ton of miles. My dad doesn't drive a lot. But I've got to make a few trim fixes on it, and it's a good car. It rock solid, almost like new. So be mindful. If some dude geeks out and he's excited, he's got a Prius, he's a car guy. In my book, I see no problem with that. If somebody wants to roll coal on other people, I have a problem with that. At that point, you're not celebrating what's good about the car industry. You're using your truck or to show other people a side of you, and it's not necessarily a side of you that endears people to you. I'd like for the car hobby to be around for another 100 years and people who enjoy it and have fun with it. Whether or not the industry goes that way, whether or not market forces make things go that way, that's a whole other story. But I don't want the EPA banning us because some dude's rolling coal. I don't want the police running rampant, cracking down on performance guys just because a handful of guys street race. Let's keep it sane. And, if you see somebody driving a Prius, don't assume that they're smug. Don't assume that they're jerks. My dad bought it because he has a short commute and he could get 60 miles a gallon on that commute. I drove this afternoon and I hear all this stuff about how slow Priuses are. And I'll tell you, I drove the upside down Camaro just 2 days ago, and this is a whole lot faster than the upside down Camaro. I look at the cars from the 90s and, the Geo Metros and the Ford Festivas and things like that. And I remember what the economy cars were, and they were terrible. I mean, if you got 50 miles a gallon back then, you were driving a penalty box. This thing's not a penalty box. Some people say it is because it doesn't have all the leathered up options and whatnot. But I was in a passing zone behind somebody who was doing 35 and a 55, which happens out here. This is a rural suburb. And we have higher speed limits, and there are people who don't realize that. And so I'd been driving it and gnashing down the gas pedal, just wasn't going anywhere. But then I floored it to get past this guy in the passing zone. The performance is hidden. These things can move pretty decently. They're not rocket ships, but they've got some get up and go. And I passed them with no problem. There wasn't any worry that I was going to get around them once the engine kicked on and went. So be mindful when you're hating on the Prius. They're not what you think they are. You are arguing a straw man argument. You don't know what you're arguing against. So consider that.